Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming together within this beautiful body of wisdom we call Torah, and within this beautiful body of fellowship we call our Shulchan PDX cohort, our community. We are starting a new book in Torah, the book of Numbers. So we're in chapter 1, verse 1 of the book of Numbers. We will read through the English translation of our Torah portion. Then I'll share with you a bit of a focus study, and then we will continue on with our collaborative conversation, reflecting on this Torah portion. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute, together we can recite our blessing, giving thanks for sharing this moment together. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'achol divrei Torah. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to reflect ourselves in words, deeds, and relationships of Torah. I'll share the opening verses, and I'll give everyone around the table here an opportunity to read a few verses, and then I'll invite those who are joining us on Zoom to also have that opportunity. Book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 1. On the first day of the second month, in the second year, following the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, and Robin, would you like to begin reading there at verse 2?
Yes, thank you. Take a census of the whole Israelite company of fighters by the clan of its ancestral houses, listing the names, every male head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups from the age of 20 years up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a representative of each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house.
Thank you, Robin. Dave, you want to read a little bit starting there at verse 5?
And these are the names of the men who will stand with you. For Reuben, Eliezer, son of Shadur. For Simeon, Shalumiel, son of Zurishaddai. For Judah, Nashon, son of Amminadab. For Issachar, Nathaniel, son of Zuar. For Zebulun, Eliab, son of Helon. For the children of Joseph, for Ephraim, Elishama, son of Amihud. For Manasseh, Gamliel, son of Pedasur. For Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. For Dan, Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai. For Asher, Pagiel, son of Okran. For Gad, Eliasaph, son of Duel. For Naphtali, Ahira, son of Arian. These were the prominent ones of their congregation, chieftains of their fathers' tribes, and they were the heads of Israel's thousands.
Thank you so much. Susan, would you like to read there
Yeah, I
first?
should go on.
Yeah.
And Moses and Aaron with him took these men who had been marked out by name, and all the community they assembled on the first of the second month, and they were affiliated by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and up, by their heads, as the Lord had charged Moses, and he made a reckoning of them in the wilderness of Sinai. And the sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, those born to them by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names by their head, every male from 20 years old and up. Everyone who went out in the army, their reckoning for the tribe of Reuben, 46,500.
Thank you so much. And June, would you like to read it, verse 22?
Thank you, Rabbi. Of the children of Simeon, their generations, by their families, by their fathers' houses, those that were numbered thereof, according to the number of names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, of the tribe of Simeon, were 50,009,300. Of the children of God, their generations, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, of the tribe of God, were 45,650. Of the children of Judah, their generations, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, of the tribe of Judah, were 14,600.
Thank you so much. Let me, Jackie, would you like to read a little bit of verse 28?
Of the descendants of Issachar, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Issachar, 54,400. Of the descendants of Zebulun, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Zebulun, 57,400. Of the descendants of Joseph, of the descendants of Ephraim, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Ephraim, 40,500. Of the descendants of Manasseh, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Manasseh, 32,200.
Thank you. Tom, you want to read a little bit there at verse 36?
Thank you, Rabbi. The descendants of Benjamin, registration of the clan of their ancestral house is listed by name, age 20 years and over. All were able to bear arms. The enrolled from the tribe of Benjamin, 35,400. Of the descendants of Dan, the registration of the clans at their ancestral house, as listed by name, age 20 and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Dan, 62,700.
And verse,
Of the descendants of Asher, the registration of the clans of their ancestral houses listed by age 20 years and over, all who are able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Asher, 41,500. Of the descendants of Naphtali, the registration of the clans of their ancestral houses listed by name, age 20 and over, all who are able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Naphtali, 53,400.
thank you. Margot, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 44?
Those are the enrollments recorded by Moses and Aaron and by the chieftains of Israel, who were 12 in number, one man to each ancestral house. All the Israelites aged 20 years and over enrolled by ancestral houses, all those in Israel who were able to bear arms, all who were enrolled came to 603,550.
Okay, let me invite Dave. Would you like to read there, starting in verse 47?
The Levites, however, were not recorded among them by their ancestral tribe. For Adonai had spoken to Moses, saying, "Do not on any account enroll the tribes of Levi or take a census of them with the Israelites. You shall put the Levites in charge of the tabernacle of the pact, all its furnishings and everything that pertains to it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings, and they shall tend to it, and they shall camp around the tabernacle. When the tabernacle is set out, the Levites shall take it down, and when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. Any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death. The Israelites shall encamp troop by troop, each man with his division, and each under his standard. The Levites, however, shall camp around the tabernacle of the pact, that wrath may not strike the Israelite community. The Levites shall stand guard around the tabernacle of the pact. The Israelites did according to just as Adonai had commanded Moses, so they did.
Thank you, Dave. Doreen, would you like to read a little bit at the very start of chapter 2?
You know, I would, but I don't have my book in front of me. I just
Okay, that's
decided
fine.
last minute to join.
Thank you. So glad that you're with us. Paul,
So-
would you like to read at the very start of chapter 2?
Thank you, Rabbi. Hashem spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, the children of Israel shall encamp, each man by his banner, according to the insignias of their father's household. At a distance surrounding the tent of meetings shall they encamp. Those who encamp to the front at the east shall be the banner of the camp of Judah, according to their legions. And the leader of the children of Judah is Nachshon, son of Aminadab. Its legion and their count are 74,600. Those encamping near him are the tribe of Issachar, and the leader of the children of Issachar is Nathaniel, son of Zuar. Its legion and their count are 54,400. The tribe of Zebulun, and the leader of the tribe of Zebulun is Eliab, son of Helon. Its legion and their count are 57,400. All those counted for the camp of Judah are 186,400 according to their legions. They shall be the first to journey.
Thank you so much. And Mark Thompson, would you like to read starting at verse 10?
Sure. On the south, the standard of the division of Reuben, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Reubenites, Elizur, son of Shedur, his troop as enrolled, 46,500. Camping next to it, the tribe of Simeon. Chieftain of the Simeonites, Shemuel, son of Zerushadai, his troop as enrolled, 59,300. And the tribe of Gad. Chieftain of the Gadites, Eliasaph, son of Ruel, his troop as enrolled, 45,650. The total enrolled in the division of Reuben, 151,450 for all troops. These shall march second.
Thank you so much. And Michael, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 17?
The tent of meeting, the camp of the Levites shall journey in the middle of the camps. As they encamp, so shall they journey, everyone at his place according to their banners. The banner of the camp of Ephraim, according to their legions, shall be to the west. And the leader of the children of Ephraim is Elishama, son of Ammihud. Its legions and their counts are 40,500. Those encamping near him are the tribe of Manasseh, and the leader of the children of Manasseh is Gamliel, son of Pedosar. Its legions and their counts are 32,200. And the tribe of Benjamin, and the leader of the children of Benjamin is Abidan, son of Gideoni. Its legions and their counts are 35,400. All those counted for the camp of Ephraim are 108,100 according to their legions. They shall be the third to journey.
Thank you so much. And Robert, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 25?
Yes, thank you. The standard of the camp of Dan shall be on the north side of their armies, and the captain of the children of Dan shall be Ahazir, son of Ammishaddai, and his host and those that were numbered of them were 62,700. And those that encamp by him shall be the tribe of Ashur, and the captain of the children of Ashur shall be Pagiel, the son of Okran, and his host and those that were numbered of them were 41,500. Then the tribe of Nephtali, and the captain of the children of Naphtali shall be the Ahira, the son of Enan. And his host and those that were numbered of them were 53,400. And they that were numbered in the camp of Dan were 100,050 and 7,600. They shall go hindmost with their standards. These are those which were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers. All those that were numbered of the camps throughout their hosts were 600,000 and 3,000 and 550. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they pitched their standards, and so they set forward everyone after their families, according to the house of their fathers.
Thank you so much. Jim, would you like to read a little bit at the very start of chapter 3?
Thank you, Rabbi. This is the line of Aaron and Moses at the time that Adonai spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. These were the names of Aaron's sons: Nadab, the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These were the names of Aaron's sons, the anointed priests who were ordained for priesthood. But Nadab and Abihu died by the will of the Lord when they offered alien fire before Adonai in the wilderness of Sinai, and they left no sons. So it was Eleazar and Ithamar who served as priests in the lifetime of their father Aaron.
Thank you so much, Jim. Let me invite Justin, if you'd like to read starting at verse 5.
Sorry, it's technical difficulties on this side. So I'm getting there. Okay, I'm here on verse 5.
Thank you.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, bring forth the tribe of Levi and present them before Aaron the Cohen, that they may serve him. They shall keep his charge and the charge of the entire community before the tent of meeting to perform the service of the Mishkan. They shall take charge of all the vessels of the tent of meeting and the charge of the children of Israel to perform the service of the Mishkan. You shall give over the Levites to Aaron and his sons. They shall be wholly given over to him from the children of Israel. You shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall keep their kehuna. Any outsider or non-Cohen who approaches shall be put to death. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, as for me, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel in a place of all firstborns among the children of Israel who have opened the womb. And all the Levites shall be mine. For all the firstborns are mine. Since the day I smote all the firstborns in the land of Egypt, I sanctified for myself all the firstborns of Israel. Both man and beast, they shall become mine. I am the Lord.
Thank you so much, Justin. Mark, excuse me, Mark Levinson, would you like to read a little bit at verse 14?
Thank you. The Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, record the Levites by ancestral house and by clan. Record every male among them from the age of 1 month up. So Moses recorded them at the command of the Lord as he was bidden. These were the sons of Levi by name: Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. These are the names of sons of Gershon by clan: Libni and Shimei. The sons of Kohath by clan: Amram and Ishar, Hebron and Uziel. The sons of Merari by clan: Mahili and Mushi. These were the clans of the Levites within their ancestral houses. To Gershon belonged the clan of the Libnites and the clan of Shimeites. Those were the clans of the Gershonites. The recorded entries of all their males from the age of 1 month up, as recorded, came to 7,500. The clans of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle to the west. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, son of Lael. The duties of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting comprised the tabernacle, the tent, its coverings, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the hangings of the enclosure, the screen for the entrance of the enclosure which surrounds the tabernacle, the cords thereof, and the altar. All the service connected with these.
Thank you. And Gary, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 27?
To Kohath belonged the clan of the Amoramites, the clan of the Israelites, the clan of the Hebronites, the clan of the Uzzielites. Those were the clans of the Kohathites. All the listed males from the age of 1 month up came to 8,600, attending to the duties of the sanctuary. The clans of the Kohathites were to camp along the south side of the tabernacle. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Kohathite clan was Elizaphan, son of Uzziel. Their duties comprised the ark, the table, the lampshade, the altars, and the sacred utensils that were used with them, and the screen. All the service connected with these. The head chieftain of the Levites was Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, in charge of those attending to the duties of the sanctuary. To the Mari belonged the clan of the Mahalites and the clan of the Mushites. Those are the clans of the Mahari, the recorded entries of all their males from the age of 1 month up came to 6,200. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the clans of Mari was Zuriel, son of Abihail. They were to camp along the north side of the tabernacle. The assigned duties of the Merahites comprise the planks of the tabernacle, its bars, posts, and sockets, and all its furnishings. All the service connected with these, also the posts around the enclosure and their sockets, pegs, and cords.
Thank you so much. Let me invite Catherine. Would you like to read a little bit, starting at verse 38?
Thank you, Rabbi. Those who went to camp before the tabernacle to I've not seen.
So we're on verse 38.
In front, before the tent of meeting, on the cast went Moses and Aaron and his sons, attending to the duties of the sanctuary as, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing very well.
Okay.
As a duty on behalf of the Israelites. And any outsider who encroached was to be put to death. All the Levites who were recorded, whom at the Lord's command, Moses and Aaron recorded by their clans, all the males from the age of 1 month up came to 22,000.
Thank you so much.
I apologize.
There's no need to apologize. So lovely to have you with us, and thank you for the reading. And now we're at verse 40 of chapter 3. Adonai said to Moses, record every firstborn male of the Israelite people from the age of 1 month up, and make a list of their names, and take the Levites for me, Adonai, in place of every firstborn among the Israelite people, and the cattle of the Levites in place of every firstborn among the cattle of the Israelites. So Moses recorded all the firstborn among the Israelites as Adonai had commanded him. All the firstborn males, as listed by name, recorded from the age of 1 month up came to 22,273. Robin, would you like to read a little bit at verse 44?
Yes, thank you. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites in place of all the male firstborn among the Israelite people, and the cattle of the Levites in place of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine, Adonai's. And in the redemption price of the 273 Israelite male firstborn over and above the number of the Levites, take 5 shekels per head. Take this by the sanctuary weight, 20 gerahs to the shekel, and give the money to Aaron and his sons as the redemption price for those who are in excess. So Moses took the redemption money from those over and above the ones redeemed by the Levites. He took the money from the male firstborn of the Israelites, 1,365 sanctuary shekels. And Moses gave the redemption money to Aaron and his sons at Adonai's bidding, as Adonai had commanded Moses.
Thank you so much. And Cantor Bart, I see you joined us. Would you like to share in a reading? Okay, then let me invite David. Would you like to read at the very start of chapter 4?
And Hashem spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, add up the heads of the children of Kohath from among the children of Levi by their families, by their father's house, from 30 years old and up to 50 years old, everyone who would come to the army to do work in the tent of meeting. This is the work of the sons of Kohath in the tent of the meeting, the Holy of Holies. And Aaron and his sons shall come when the camp is to travel, and they shall take down the covering pavilion and cover the ark of the testimony with it. And they shall put a cover of leather and shall spread a fabric of blue above it and put in its poles. And on the table of showbread they shall spread a blue fabric, and they shall put on it the dishes and the pans and the bowls and the libation jars. And the continual bread shall be on it. And they shall spread a scarlet fabric over them and cover it with a leather covering and set its poles. And they shall take a blue fabric and cover the menorah for lighting, and its lamps and its tongs and its fire holders and all its equipment for oil, which they will minister for it. And they shall put it and all its equipment into a leather covering and put it on a beam. And on the gold altar they shall spread a blue fabric, and they shall cover it with leather covering and set its poles. And they shall take all the equipment for ministering with which they minister in the holy, and put them into a blue fabric and cover them with a leather covering and put them on a beam. And they shall clear the ashes from the altar and spread a purple fabric over it. And they shall put on it all the equipment with which they minister at it, the fire holders, the forks and the shovels and the basins, all the altar's equipment, and they shall spread a leather covering on it and set its poles.
Thank you so much. And Susan, you want to read?
Sure, thank you. And Aaron and his sons shall finish covering the sanctuary and all the vessels of the sanctuary when the camp journeys onward. And afterward, the Kohathites shall come to carry, so that they do not touch the holy and die. These make up the carriage of the Kohathites in the tent of meeting. And what is appointed for Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, the oil for the lamp and the aromatic incense and the perpetual grain offering and the anointing oil, what is appointed for all the tabernacle and all that is in it, in the sanctuary and in its vessels. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, do not let the tribe of the clans of the Kohathites be cut off from the midst of the Levites, and this you shall do for them, that they live and not die when they draw near the Holy of Holies. Aaron and his sons shall come and set every man of them at his work and at his carriage, and they shall not come in to see the sanctuary for even a moment and die. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying,
we're going to stop right there at the.
Oh, that's right. It's the end of the portion.
So I want to thank everyone for sharing in the reading. And if you have a study sheet, I invite you to take it out at this point. And just to set us in some larger context of the entirety of Torah, we are leaving behind the book of Leviticus. We are embarking upon the book of Numbers. And in a sense, in terms of the theater of it all, the literary structure of it all, we are, in a sense, getting ready to mount up and be back on the road. We have been in the book of Leviticus, which seems as if it was one long rest stop where there was no narrative, virtually no narrative. That is, no human development, no sense of drama was taking place. It was a book that consisted of a lot of rules and prescriptions, primarily having to do with one's spiritual and physical well-being, and the rules that were addressed primarily to the priests about how to conduct the rituals and rites that they were responsible for. And now we're going to get kind of, you can sense the drama of people eager now in this second month of the second year to get ready to get back on the road, to get not only physically back on the road, but back on the path of a narrative, of a storytelling, where there can be some kind of human interactions and tension and drama. And if one wants to view it perhaps cinematically, what I imagine anyway, is now people they've been sitting around, they've been listening to all these rules and protocols and prescriptions, and now the sound is being passed throughout the entire Israelite encampment. We're getting ready to go. We're getting ready to hit the road again onto the promised land. And I can hear all the rustling and the teaming up of the caravans, and all of a sudden all the herds being urged to get up and get ready to move, and people loading up their wagons, and the rustling. And so here's the setting in which we move from this entire book of Leviticus of being still to all of a sudden entering into this kind of tension about gathering oneself together and going back out on the road. And one of the key images, which we're introduced to at the very beginning, to convey this notion of being back on the road, has to do with tents, because tents are obviously a key function of what it means to live out on the road. And so we're going to explore a little bit in this focus study about what role do these tents play? What are the images? What are the functions that they're meant to convey? So to get us into the text, the written text, I've chosen as a visual text this work by this Italian artist, Francesco Clemente, who spends much of his time as an artist traveling back and forth between New York and India. And the piece that I have here is part of a large installation that takes up about 30,000 square feet. And the centerpiece of this installation consists of 6 painted canvas tents. And each tent is about 10 feet by 18 feet by 12 feet high. And embedded on these tents, as you can see in this one, this particular tent is called Standing with Truth Tent. And the tents are embedded within them are written texts, icons, human figures, scenes. If you can look at this one in particular, scenes that seem to transition back and forth between the esoteric, the carnal, and the spiritual. And we're going to look at what it means for this artist friend, Francesco Clemente, what he means by tents. So we're going to look at this first bit of commentary, which is his own commentary on his work. And he writes, "The value of images is to remind the self of its limitations, and at the same time of the possibility of an endless journey. Every single moment of the unfolding experience of this work, which is called encampment, is just a pretext to move on, to move forward from that moment. It's never supposed to be a beginning or an ending. It's just supposed to be a transition." So what Francesco Clemente hopes to convey with this work called Encampment, which consists of these 6 tents, plus I believe at least 4 different sculptures that are in another room, is to have the viewer keep moving from site to site and to never stay in one place. And the fact that he combines these different dimensions as being represented in his tent, some having to do with very spiritual matters, others having to do with erotic matters, those having to do with esoteric icons, is to keep us spinning, if you will, keep us moving and never settling in any one interpretation or any one dimension of our lives. So we're going to explore this relationship, at least as Clemente is suggesting to us, about tents as being an incitement, if you will, a provocation to keep moving along. In our text, we wonder, well, let's look at the significance of these tents and of this counting that's taking place once these tents are occupied by a tribe and by family. So in our portion, we read, each of the children of Israel shall camp with his standard under the banner of their ancestral house, and his army was. So it becomes relatively clear, as we've seen repeated time and time again over the opening of our Torah portion, that this counting that was taking place once everyone was organized according to their tribe and under their banners and by their families was to raise an army. They're getting ready to go back out on the road, and they need to have some kind of an army to protect them from the external enemies. So the banners, the flags, the tents, they are all implicated in a military organization in preparation for war. That seems to be clearly what a straightforward reading of the text seems to indicate. What's interesting is that when we start looking at some of the commentary, some of the rabbinic midrashim, we get a very different possibility, a very different sense of what is involved, what the image of tents begins to evoke for us. So here's from Midrash, now in number 3. When God revealed God's self on Mount Sinai, 22,000 angels descended with God, and they were all arrayed under separate flags, as it is said, marked out by flags from among myriads. When Israel saw them arrayed under separate flags, they began to long for flags. God said to them, how you long to be ranged under flags. As you live, I shall fulfill your desire. God immediately informed Israel by telling Moses, go arrange them under flags as they have desired. So here in this midrash, it is conveying a different notion about tents and banners and flags. It's now, first of all, citing a verse, interesting enough, from Song of Songs. The Song of Songs, which is a book that we read when we begin to celebrate Passover. A Song of Songs, of course, is a very, you can consider it intimate, romantic, erotic, sensual, certainly the most sensual of all the different books in the Jewish Bible. So it's interesting that as a counterpose to what appears to be the straightforward reading of the text, which is, this is about a bunch of men getting ready and forming themselves into an army to fight a war, the Midrash takes something that's a book that's really quite sensuous and one might say feminine in its appeal, its seductiveness, and its allure, its sense of intimacy of two lovers wanting to be wrapped in one another. And so this is the image that the rabbis are now pointing to with the association with flags and tents and banners, saying at the Mount Sinai, when God appeared, angels appeared and angels had flags, and that evoked a desire among the Israelites to also have flags and banners, as if that would somehow induce them to become like the angels themselves, to have that kind of intimacy with God. So if you turn over We're going to continue with this, and here is another midrash. Each with its standard under the banners of their ancestral house. The midrash goes on. There is an allusion to this in, who is this that looks forth as the dawn, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, terrible as an army with banners? Holy and grand was Israel beneath their banners. All the nations looked at them with rapt attention and wonder. These nations said to them, return, return, O Shulamite. Cling to us, come to us, and we will make you governors, generals, commanders, lieutenants, commanders in chief. Return, and we will look upon you. Look upon you means appoint you to power. So here again in this midrash, which is once again quoting the sensuous, intimate text of lovers, Song of Songs. And here what it's conveying is that when the Israelites were now attaching themselves to God, that there was a competing seduction that was happening. And that seduction was one that was being offered by the other nations. And they were in a sense saying, come away from God, come away from that pathway, come back to us, be more like us. And if you attach yourselves to us, then we'll make you generals and commanders and lieutenants. We'll give you positions of power. So it's extraordinary here because the rabbis, in a sense, are contrasting what appears to be the clear meaning of our Torah text, which is form yourself into armies. And they are instead reading into that this sense of seduction and femininity and perhaps even eroticism, sensuality that's involved with the Song of Songs, and saying that, no, it was the other nations that wanted Israel to be an army and warlike. And that really the message of the text is to be intimate, to be close. And so maybe they're reading into the notion of tents, not as being the organizing site for an army, but rather a site for intimacy and connection and sensuality. Okay. So we're going to continue. If you number 5 on the study sheet, it's another quote here from the Song of Songs. And I mention it because it has a word in here in Hebrew that we find in our Torah portion, the word niglo, which means his flag. And so from the Song of Songs, he brought me into the house of wine, and his flag of love was over me. So here, this same word for flag, which is used in our Torah portion here, clearly in Song of Songs, has a very different evocation. It evokes this sensuous intimacy, the flag of love, and brought me into the house of wine. And when Rashi comments on this, he says, this place, what it's talking about, is the tent of meeting, which is fascinating. The Mishkan, which we also read about in this week's Torah portion, the Mishkan is that place where the Israelites were to have the most intimate experience possible with God. And so this place of a large tent is further identified with a sense of deep intimacy and connection rather than a sense of aggressive power. So if you look at number 6, this is from a contemporary piece of work by Carol Gilligan, who wrote a book called In a Different Voice. And she writes, there is an age-old split between thinking and feeling, justice and mercy, that underlies many of the cliches and stereotypes concerning the difference between the sexes. There are 2 modes of judging, 2 different constructions of the moral domain. One traditionally associated with masculinity and the public world of social power. The other with femininity and the privacy of domestic interchange. So she is referring to the notion that when one is dealing with the world of social power, that then one tends to deal with systems and rules and abstractions, and to be able to live that way requires a certain level of detachment from those one is engaging with. And she contrasts that with the world of intimate relationships, which requires a sense of nurturing, of weaving together lives, and that requires a measure of attachment. And we're going to look at that in number 7. There are, as far as I'm aware, only 2 places in the entire Jewish Bible where the word Torah is followed by another noun in a construct form. And here are the 2. One is from the prophet Malachi. The law of truth, Torat Emet, was in his mouth, and nothing false was found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and uprightness, and turned many from sin. This is a portion from the prophet where he is describing kind of the ideal of what a priest should be like. Someone who deals with Torat Emet, the law of truth. The only other place I'm aware of where Torah is followed by a noun comes from Proverbs. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of loving kindness, Torat Chesed, is on her tongue. This is from a famous portion of book of Proverbs called Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. So we have this kind of male figure related to Torat Emet, a Torah of truth, and then a feminine figure related to Torat Chesed, the law of loving kindness. What's interesting is that in Judaism, both are recognized, but within Judaism, it's really the home and family that hold the place of religious centrality, more so than the social setting of power and authority. It's within the home, that's the home that's really the center of religious and spiritual life. I wrote down here in number 8, the Hebrew verb lada'at, which means to know. But what's interesting about the verb to know is that it is associated with physical intimacy. We encounter it first with Adam and Eve, that Adam knew Eve. And this is the verb that's used. So to have knowledge, to know something, is not an abstraction in Hebrew. It's a real close intimacy. So with that, I'd like to conclude with this poem from Marina, from Rilke, Sonnets to Orpheus. One who pours oneself out like a stream is acknowledged at last by knowledge, and she leads him enchanted through the harmonious country that finishes often with starting and with ending begins. So I share that because I return to our artist, Francisco Clemente, who is encouraging us to, with his artwork, to constantly view the possibility of not just settling somewhere, but of continuing a journey, to continue moving. So what he's presenting us with in his artwork, and what I believe is being offered up in the commentaries and the poems that we've just read, is that the possibility, not of a journey that involves a completion, but the possibility of an endless journey of ongoing discovery. And with that, I'd love to offer it up for your thoughts and reflections and observations about this week's Torah portion. If anyone here wants to begin with a raised hand, also invite those who are on Zoom, if you'd like to raise your hand, love to call upon you. Margot.
Well, on a very light side, I'm reminded of my husband who loved backpacking with our sons, setting up his tent. Then he was called up for Desert Storm, and he lived in a tent on the desert for 6 months. And after that, he no longer wanted to backpack and set up tents.
Yeah, I identify with that.
Yeah, David identifies with that. Okay, thank you. All right. And others, what you saw, what you experienced on our journey through this week's Torah portion. Yes, David.
I hope this isn't a derailment, but reading about 800,000 men between 20 and 50 or 40 warriors with all their wives and children and cattle, etc. Reminded me of the Mongol hordes and their wagons and their families that followed along with them, and how frightening that might be to the people that looked on at this huge mass of people.
Yeah.
And then I walked with you through
Let me just, there's someone who's singing a lovely tune, but if you could unmute for a moment, please.
So rabbis transform this into something that has higher opposite of that, of intimacy and family and the huppah as a tent, and instead of marching into enemy lands and ravaging them, it becomes a journey of transformation and in part domesticity.
Yeah. So
that's all.
So, well, that's all is very complex, because what we've got is we've got an apparent text and then what we would call a subtext. And the same is true in our own lives, right? We have an apparent text that we're living out, but there's some other text within us, which we have the capacity either to continue to suppress or ignore, or maybe raise to the surface. And at certain times, one text may be what's really needed more than the other, or one may be a healthier version of the story we need to tell at any one given moment. So that's what you're revealing is that, and what we've seen here in our study is that there's an apparent surface text, but there's another text underneath, which is what the Midrashim are raising to the surface to make us aware that there's always this alternative. Maybe it's that we have a choice which text to bring to the surface at any given moment. So thank you very much for that. Let me call upon Justin and then Catherine.
Thank you. There's something to me, and not to want to wander toward the Greek encampment here. I know that there's issues with that, but I still immediately thought to myself, this is a catalog, right? I mean, and the comparative cultural experiences, the catalog of the ships, or one of the comparatives, and that's for only 142,000 people. But there's a similarity, and the only other piece that I keep on going back and forth about is this sense of, it's clear in the Iliad that it's a matter of the treachery of Eros, the treachery of desire, that leads into this terrible battle from that side. And just from the other side, then from this side, I mean, we do have in these books, I mean, you've got the death of Aaron's sons, which in a sense is from their desire for holiness or an over desire. So there's just the sense of how, I mean, of course, in facing the treachery of Eros, it's easy to become repressive. But then how to, find, these are different ways of somehow filtering this so that it's not either all in the Song of Psalms Song of Songs, or else it's in the terrible, potential contention and battles that are present. So I just kind of wanted to go between those two and see those two different.
Yeah, and I think we see that a little bit in that midrash where we've got these two kind of seductions going on. One, the seduction through the voice of the Song of Songs, alluring one into a dimension of sacred love, perhaps, as well as pleasure. And then the other voice, that the voice of the nation saying, no, be more like us and come into the world of power and domination. And perhaps those are voices that are also within each of us. Shall I be a person of compassion, or shall I be a person of control? So, let me invite Catherine. Go ahead, please unmute and share with us. Catherine, would you like to share with us? Okay. All right, maybe we've got a little bit of buffering problem there. Anyone else like to share, reflect? Yeah, Jackie?
Just thinking of tents and what a wonderful opportunity it is. To this day, families love to go out on vacation in tents.
Yeah.
Leave all their wonderful conveniences behind.
Yeah.
And share the wilderness, cook out under the stars or under the sun, and love it.
Yeah.
And yet there is something very appealing because it's temporary, and they will be moving on, in this case, back to their more comfortable lodging.
Yeah.
But there is something compelling about sleeping in a tent.
So our artist, Francisco Clemente, calls himself a nomadic artist.
Mhm.
And it may in part have to do with his peripatetic lifestyle, which is to be in New York for a while, then go to India for a while, then back to New York for a while. But I think it also has to do with the fact that he himself wants to keep moving along and evolving as a person and exploring. And so for him, the tents conveys that image. And what you're conveying is the sense of the joy of reconvening, of being together outside the walls and into something more expansive, like a tent.
It's expansive in that you're in the wilderness, but it takes a family who usually have their own bedrooms and their own space,
Right.
and puts them.
Breaks
very
down the
close.
walls.
Yeah, they break down the walls.
Right.
They're in a very small space for the duration of that time.
Right. Right.
And they actually have to unite these things. No TV. Maybe a cell phone.
Right. Thank you. All right. And Robert.
Thank you. As always, a lovely evening. So, my thought is triggered by a few words, and I love the concept of journey, purpose, and transformation. And it occurs to me that every generation, every age, and every individual has a responsibility to be on a journey of transformation and purpose. And that is so lacking, as we've seen today in our own world, where there's this huge contrast between those who have a sense of purpose, who want to be of service, who are self-sacrificing, and on the other hand, those who view life as a journey of pleasure and me, and who lack the vision to understand there's something greater than themselves. And it's only through that recognition that there's joy.
God, you're so terrific, Robert.
So the notion of being on a journey that's not just about oneself, I mean, maybe just the recitation of these numbers, that we read, hundreds of thousands of people, just that image of so many people embarking upon a common purpose, it almost seems fanciful and literally mythic in this day and age when everything seems so atomized and fragmented. And we'll see, as we go through the book of Numbers, that indeed, even in this mythic, heroic saga, the fragmentation is just barely there under the surface and begins to erupt. So it is a heroic tale to think about, a heroic tale of a group of people, not just of an individual. Okay. And anyone else like to share? And Paul.
Yeah, it seems like we talk about journey, and it's almost like in therapy where people look at a journey of life in a very positive, it's a wonderful thing, let's see the tour, let's see what restaurants we're going to go to and what historic sites, it's that kind of world that's being depicted. On the other hand, if I were one of those people in the desert and they line me up, under flags, and they start counting people above 21, I don't think of those, very heroic things. Do I got how long am I going to be on this world, and where's my next meal coming from? So I really like the interpretations I hear, but if I always take a look at what it says, literally, it almost goes in the opposite direction. But what do I enjoy? I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so that's the lovely part of reading Torah, which is to not just get swept along on the telling, but to also get swept along by our interpretation of the telling. And sometimes they are synchronous, and sometimes they create a bit of tension. And I think that the Torah is able to create a kind of tension that is not destructive. It's kind of provocative and developmental. It's a developmental dynamic tension rather than one that only leads to destruction of one side or the other. So I want to conclude this by just saying what an honor and a glory it is to be on a journey with all of you. You all create such a beautiful, safe space in which to explore all kinds of thoughts and feelings and reflections. And we grow through one another's presence and contributions. So I look forward to our continuing the journey together. God bless you all. May you all be well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Rabbi.
Rabbi, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night.